and welcome back to another episode of the Who Dat Jedi podcast. And we have been gone due to Mardi Gras and vacations, and Mardi Gras is over, so everybody now. Yeah. But good time was had by at least everybody here. I mean, you know, it was kind of a weird Mardi Gras, not without its controversies, but you know, I think the city rolled through it pretty well. I don't know. So, Dave, you were at. Oh, sorry. I should probably say, sitting around my table here in Gentilly is Dave and Alfredo.
Hi.
Hello.
And of course, I'm Aaron. Of course, I'm Aaron. Yeah,
of course
sounds really.
Well, we're 17 episodes in, right?
Of course I'm Aaron.
Yeah.
No, we all Mardi Gras. Yeah, well, that's what I was talking about. So Dave, you were here for a little bit of Mardi Gras and then went on a vacation with the family, which we will talk about solely tonight
in exhaustive detail.
We're going to talk about Dave's trip to the great East Coast.
The great state of Florida.
The great state of Wyoming. Packed up the kids and went to Wyoming. I know that's not on the East Coast. I was trying to find something. Yeah, but anyway.
We were making Wally World references earlier, so
you know. So I was a high school band director, and we took the kids on a band trip one time to L.A. And one of the places we went to was Six Flags Magic Mountain, which was where they filmed Wally World. And so as the buses are going into the parking lot, on my bus, I've got the microphone. I'm screaming, Wally World! And the kids are like, what in the heck is this guy's problem? I mean, we get off the bus and I'm like, first kid I see is like, race you to the front. And, you know, I made I don't know how many, you know, sorry, folks, the park's closed. Moose out front should have told you. And the kids were all just looking at me like, what is your deal? And actually, my favorite, there was a kid, long story. There was a kid who hated roller coasters. And I actually guilted him into, like I said, this is a long story I'll tell off the air, but guilted him going on Tower of Terror. I questioned his manhood, basically. Because he was going to be enlisted. He was enlisted in the Marines. And his name was Jose Chavez, so he had a lot of that machismo to him, you know. And I said, you're going to be a United States Marine and you will not go on a roller coaster. And he was like, whoa, you know. And so went on Tower of Terror with me, and then we went on a roller coaster. We went on the Screaming Mimi from, you know, at Six Flags Magic Mountain. That's, you know, it's not actually called the Screaming Mimi, but anyway, we start going up the hill, and I turned to him and I said, can I call you Rusty? You know, the first time I went on this ride, I had a bad experience. I threw up, and Jose was just like, dude, shut up. I'm going to kill you. But I've made so many vacation references. So anyway, you just got me down that rabbit hole. Sorry. But Dave went to Galaxy's Edge, and we're going to be talking about, you know, real life experience at Galaxy's Edge. And
to look forward to.
That'll be fun. But Fredo and I just stuck around and did Mardi Gras. So I don't know, favorite Mardi Gras memory? Do you have one?
See, that's a problem because
Mardi Gras memories?
Mardi Gras? No, lots of Mardi Gras memories. Actually, that's I was saying off air before I came in that Mardi Gras is one of those weird things where it's almost like being on vacation, where you're in the middle of it, you're like, I can't wait for it to be over. I'm at rest, and then you get over and, you know, it ends, and you're like, oh, it's such a shame. I got to go back to regular life. I don't know. I think favorite memory is just all the, you know, walking around through the quarter, the Marini, all the scenes we saw, the people we saw.
That wasn't a good memory. We had a friend who had never been into the quarter on Mardi Gras before, and so we're like, so we went into the quarter, and it was fine. The quarter was fine, but then we went into the Marini, and it was like, well, it was, first of all, I turned to Britt and I said, we're not in costume and we're the weirdos. I mean, we stood out like a sore thumb, but it was just wall to wall people, and I was just like, get me out of here.
Now I will say, so actually, what I'll count as my favorite memory of that day, I told you this. I woke up at 3:00 in the morning and I could not go back to bed, and I'm like, okay, what do I do at this point? Fine. Northside Skull and Bones Gang come out at 5:00 in the morning out of the Backstreet Cultural Center Museum in the Treme. got dressed, changed, drove over there, parked, was able to catch them coming out. And if you've never done it, it's a fun experience because they basically come out, they do a little song and presentation in front of the museum, and then they go through the Tremaine, knocking door to door, announcing the beginning of Mardi Gras. And it's such a great experience, and it ties it so well to old world carnival. The whole idea of you're taking this day to celebrate life because next day you're supposed to be acknowledging your mortality.
Probably not a real touristy Mardi Gras experience.
It is not, but it's something that you do and you just appreciate it for its artistry. And
I've never been, and that was the one moment I got jealous, like looking at people's updates during the week and missing it. And the thought occurs to me that if you're gonna wake up at 3 a.m. on any day of the year, that's a good day for it.
My thing was, I was like, okay, I got up at 2 and then went back to bed. So I fell asleep. Woke up at 3, came in bed. It's 3:15, 3:30, 3:45. I'm like, I'm not going back to bed now because I don't want to. We're gonna get together to go to Zulu to see the Crew of Zulu march. I'm like, I don't want to fall asleep because if I fall asleep now, I'm just gonna sleep right through. Because we've been out just about every night. So at that point, I'm like, well, I've been talking all carnival that this is something I want to see. Get up and go do it. And it was easy enough. I mean, I was able to find parking on Rampart that was free, not a problem. I was able to walk there. We waited for a little bit. The weather was kind. By the time that the Skull and Bones gang comes out, it was really crowded. I was surprised at how many people showed up with kids, with toddlers. And, kids in good behavior. I'm like, I don't know how much they're going to give you, and I might walk with them for a little bit, for like a block or so before I left them, and they went on their merry way. And it's one of those really great experiences that you kind of sort of have to do at some point in your life to experience all the various. I tell
for
people,
locals. Yeah.
I tell people it's you think of Mardi Gras as one Mardi Gras, and it's not. You have the Uptown Parade routes, that's one Mardi Gras. You have the French Quarter experience, that's a different Mardi Gras. You have the Mardi Gras Indians, that's a different Mardi Gras. You have Frenchmen and the Marigny with every block having its own little costume block party. That's a different experience. So you get to pick and choose which Mardi Gras experience you want to have.
And then we made our way to the Kerry Irish pub where it was dead, and we just sat there and went, ah.
I was falling asleep there. I'll be honest. Towards the end, I was like,
we mentioned that. I said, man, Fredo just looked beat.
14 hours up and moving. My back was killing me and my eyes were closing. I went home, I took a nice hot shower, and then I crashed for about a couple of hours. And
that's the thing that, people maybe I just don't do Mardi Gras right, but my manager asked me, he said, how's your head doing after Mardi Gras? I was like, it's fine. It's first of all, when you're out on the parade route, you drink low octane, beer, and you have a lot of food, so it's getting soaked up. So you really, you have to work the next day, for most of these parades. So you don't, it's the dumb people who overindulge.
Now, I'll be honest. Normally I do request Ash Wednesday off. This year I couldn't because I was helping my folks out, driving them to Houston for something that weekend. So I was like, okay, I'll come in Ash Wednesday. That was a rough morning. 5 days in a row. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 7 days in a row of going out.
Yeah. Do
a number on you.
So Dave, before we get into Dave's vacation, let's do our trivia. And by the way, I wish I would have kept this. It was, I think, on GameStop or something, their website, but they said the 25 hardest Star Wars trivia questions you'll ever answer. I was like, child, please.
Challenge accepted.
But anyway, I read a couple of them, and I was like, it went away. So we'll do our trivia, which is not hard Star Wars trivia. Maybe you find it difficult, but you'll one day become nerdy like us. So I'll ask of Dave. Interesting. What's the first body part Chewbacca reattaches to C-3PO's torso in Cloud City? It's one that makes you stop and think, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, because I know that when he reactivates him, at that point he's got a head and an arm, and I think that's it. I think he has one arm and a head. I'm going to say the left arm.
It's his head.
It is his head first, yeah.
So the arm was already attached, and so
it was still on.
Because he attaches the head, and that's when he says stormtroopers here, and I got to warn the others. And then the next scene, he's got the arm, and that's when you realize.
But it's one of those that plays with your head with, plays with your head, but you don't. When I read that, I was like,
the head like Hamlet, and so like the whole time there, he's like, oh yes, and then he screws it in, and off we go. So yep, that makes sense.
All right.
For you, Fredo, who was sent away to the Imperial command ship with the praise. I'd say praise in quotes, maybe. Your work here is finished.
I'll give everybody a moment to think about it. Think of the scene. It's Darth Vader.
Yep.
Which is always interesting. It's like the Emperor just kind of sends him away like a kid. You did good, kid. Go away.
Yeah. Because it always felt kind of like not quite genuine in terms of it being praised for him. Yeah.
But then you read all the expanded universe / legend stuff, and you realize, okay, maybe he wasn't really praising him. It's always that back and forth. That's the relationship. Okay, Aaron, what 2 words does Lord Vader utter after he tells the bounty hunters, "I want them alive"? The face he's making, it tells me he knows.
Yeah, we'll let people think about this one, but we actually end up seeing this in The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
No disintegrations.
It is correct.
So
disintegrating Jawas left and right.
Yeah, and
it's a Mandalorian thing.
By the way, I watched the last 2 episodes of The Mandalorian just the other day. Just wanted something just to watch, I don't know. And I was just struck again just how well that series was written. Like watching the biker scouts at the beginning of the last episode, when they're punching Baby Yoda, they're just funny. I mean, that whole conversation, and then them missing, shooting at a target and missing, and just the back and forth. It's like it was just enough humor to. I mean, because that whole episode was heavy,
right? So
you needed that. But like I said, it was just the whole series. It made me think about the whole series was just really well written.
I love every now and again we'll go on YouTube and you'll see people who do like reaction videos. So they'll film themselves reacting live to the episode. One of the things is the bike scout scene when everybody's just getting mad every time they punch Baby Yoda in the head inside the sack. And then when the Darksaber comes out, you can tell who knows what the Darksaber is because their jaws just drop. So
in the Crew of Tux parade the Saturday before Mardi Gras, the 501st marched in that, and I was in my snowtrooper armor, and it was perfect weather for snowtrooper armor. However, my visor fogged over at Louisiana, and so for the second half of that parade, all I saw were the taillights of the truck in front of me. That's it. But anyway, we had one guy who was in his biker scout, and I was like, dude, you totally need a bag and just get some sort of like Sphero motor or something like that. And then just punch the bag every now and again as you're walking by.
Because people just jump at you.
I mean, as we're walking by, when people saw, we had one guy who was in the Mando Mercs. He was just dressed as a Mandalorian, not the Mandalorian. But everybody was like, "Oh, it's Mandalorian," and "Hi, where's Baby Yoda?" It's like we just started counting how many. The rest of us were all chopped liver. They saw a Mandalorian and they were just freaking out. So, although
I was gonna say, Brett got something special out of that.
Yeah, did you? I don't know if you heard about this. So, the one of the tragedies from this Mardi Gras was the lady who was run over by a float during the Knicks parade. And so a good chunk of the crew of Knicks didn't get to hand out, didn't get to finish the parade. And, they have their signature purses. They have purses that they decorate. And, that's one of the big coveted throws. Well, anyways, we're marching down the street. This lady calls Britt over. Britt was wrangling Britt's my wife. I just talk about her matter of factly, but, she was wrangling for us. She was basically our security. She was the only wrangler.
She was a bouncer.
I mean,
she's the only red shirt. She's the 500.
She's the only one. Anyway, but she this lady called her over and said, "Do you want this?" And it is a purse that is a stormtrooper and kind of with a part of an imperial symbol behind it. And it's just like, and Britt's like, oh my God, yes. Are you kidding? I mean, so, because they were just handing out purses, but she knew the 501st was going to be coming by, and, you know, handed it off to Britt. And so that's how Britt got her purse this year. And it was a Stormtrooper one. I'll have to show you before you leave.
Yeah. That sounds cool.
But, I don't know where we're going with that.
No, I was just saying, it's just kind of funny, kind of.
Oh, the
synergy.
Mandalorian.
But yeah, Mandalorian.
Everybody was just, they saw a Mandalorian, thought it was the Mandalorian. It's like, how many people, if somebody's dressed as a TIE fighter, they call them Darth Vader. Hand to God, this happens all the time. So all the people who are TIE pilots, they're like, there's a meme that goes around and shows the TIE pilot. It says, not Vader. It shows the Death Star gunner, not Vader. It shows Death Trooper, not Vader. You know,
shows Vader.
One person actually said that he was told that that's the worst Darth Vader costume I've ever seen.
Oh no!
It's like,
you're right.
So
you're absolutely right.
But anyway, so I digress. But so Dave, you were here for a couple days of Mardi Gras, and then you guys hit the road.
Yep, and
Holiday road.
We more vacation references.
Have to.
We headed over to Orlando. So our kids had never been to Disney. I hadn't been to Disney in 30 years. 30 plus years, and figured it was time. Our kids are 8, 6, and 4, so they're like right in that age range.
So Dave and Kate have earned their way into sainthood. They can like screw off the rest of life. They're getting into heaven for taking 3 kids that age to Disney World.
I think so, yeah. It felt like that.
You made it in, man.
Yeah, made it in and made it out. And Galaxy's Edge, though, east. It was one of our stops. So I thought it would be a good opportunity for us to talk a little bit about that. And because I think I'm the first one of this group to go. So I thought it might be fun just to talk about my experience and then give you guys the opportunity to ask questions.
I think it'll also be really interesting to hear, especially since, you know, a lot of the stuff we heard right off the bat was right after it was open, and everybody was like, oh my, blah, 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 you know, freaking out. And now that it's simmered for 6 months, you know, so it'll be interesting to see, because I'll be honest, you know, I'm going in May, and we're just at a friend's, RJ, who was on our second episode with us. We celebrated his birthday this past Saturday, and telling people I'm going to Orlando in May, and they were talking about Galaxy's Edge, and they were talking, saw the Millennium Falcon, and I cried, and they, you know, everybody's saying this, and I'm really worried that I'm going to go. I'm going to be like the typical Aaron response of, it's the Millennium Falcon, you know. But anyway, so it'll be interesting to hear how your reactions were, and your expectations and everything. But
well, I'll ask you this: what do we always say about the movies, and what do you always say about the movies?
Check your expectations at the door.
Right.
Just go with no expectations.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, my expectation is that I'm going to be like surrounded by Star Wars, and it's going to be cool. But on the other hand, there's going to be tons of effing people there, and it's going to get annoying at times. And, you know, but it's still, it's going to be like I'm seeing these things.
So how's that different from Celebration?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Well, one of the things I say about the movies, in addition to what you say about the movies, which is leave your expectations at the door, which I would advise anybody going in. Don't go in thinking it's going to be a religious experience. But also, the other things we say about the movies, at least this is something that I always go back to, is that it's a very overwhelming experience. The first time I go to a Star Wars movie, there's so much going on, and I just have trouble processing everything. And it just takes me some time to just sit down and decide, yes, I liked that. No, I didn't like that thing, etc. So those are the two things that I'd say, like, right up front for anybody who hasn't gone yet. You know, just be very mindful that everybody's going to tell you that it's an amazing, amazing thing. So you need to keep your expectations in check. But then also know going in that you probably will be overwhelmed by all this sensory hoopla going on around you.
So let me ask you, it's within Walt Disney World, or which park is it located within?
Over in Orlando, it's in Hollywood Studios, which was always one of their sort of afterthought parks. It had a lot of does it have like the Tower of Terror, and it has a couple of big rides like that.
You used to have Star Tours, if I'm not
still
remember.
has Star
Tours
yeah.
is still there. It's not part of Galaxy's Edge, though. It's in a different part of the park.
Interesting.
So that's something to file away. And that was actually one of my tips for people that are going, is to not forget that there's other Star Wars stuff in the park that's not part of Galaxy's Edge. You have Star Tours, the Jedi training, which you guys saw all the pictures of my kids practicing to be little miniature Jedis. That's not a part of the park. And they also have a gift shop attached to Star Tours, which has
it's just a big Star Wars toy store.
Yeah. Like they've got like the mix and match lightsabers.
That's where I got the mouse droid, actually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So sorry, that's a great podcasting moment. I'm pointing to something on a shelf, but I have a mouse droid, a remote control mouse droid I got at Tuscan Traders, I think it is.
Yeah. So people should bear that in mind. Going in.
Well, and they also have in there. I'm sorry, they also have Launch Bay, which is a place where you can do a meet and greet with Darth Vader and Chewbacca and BB-8, and they've got some prop replicas and stuff like that, which is kind of a neat thing. I don't know if you did any of that, but
No.
it's we did it the last time we were there, and it's kind of cool. I didn't stand in line. I don't stand in line to get picture taken with Darth Vader, because I can call however many friends, and if I really want a picture taken with Darth Vader, I can have that done with my 501st friends.
So you also have a picture with David Prowse. So you actually have a picture with Darth Vader.
I can just walk around my house in my stormtrooper armor. But anyway, but the other stuff, it was kind of cool seeing some prop stuff. But anyway,
well, if you think about a place like Magic Kingdom, it's got like Frontierland and Adventureland and Tomorrowland, all those kind of little lands, and so this is set up in a similar way. Because they've got a Toy Story land that's adjacent to Galaxy's Edge. And it makes sense that they would have built it that way if you think about it. They just wanted to build this little ecosystem, basically. So
when you're inside it, and maybe I'm jumping ahead, are you able to notice Toy Story Land? Are you able to see like the ride in the distance? Or is it like immersive where you're like...
It's very immersive.
Okay.
Completely. Like they set it up so to get to it, you have to like walk through like this dark tunnel. You have to like go underground practically, go through this big tunnel, and then when you emerge from the tunnel, boom, you're there. And it's similar. There's an entrance on either end of the park, and it's similar on the other side.
And I've heard that they've made like the height of everything, so it's not like you can look over the top and see the Tower of Terror or
they've really, it's all laid out very intelligently, so that like once you're there, you're not going to be taken out of it.
That's good.
But yeah, like if you walk along a winding road, all of a sudden you're going to see Buzz Lightyear. Wait a minute, I took a wrong turn somewhere. And, I mean,
so let me. We're gonna step all over. You had this thing all mapped out, and we're gonna step. So I want to know. You walk through this winding tunnel, and all of a sudden, boom, you're in Batuu. What was your initial reaction?
It wasn't as magical as you might hope, because
you don't. I mean, again, I guess I'm thinking is like the magical thing that I've heard from people is when you see the Millennium Falcon for the first time.
Well, there's two things going on when the park opens,
which that doesn't happen right away. But anyway, go ahead.
No, you have to like walk a little bit to get there. There's two things that happen right away at the beginning of your day. Like, let's say you think I'm going to go to the park first thing in the morning. There is going to be a mass of humanity waiting to get in. And so the way they have Rise of the Resistance set up is that you can't get in line for it, and you can't book a fast pass for it. You have to make a reservation on this app. Well, you can't make the reservation on the app unless you're in the park, or so they told us. So
on that day,
on that day, didn't turn out that way. It was a cluster, and a lot of people got booked on that ride. We weren't able to get on the ride, but our intention was, let's give ourselves every opportunity to get on the ride. So let's follow the outline that they laid out for us, which included get there before the park opens. When they let you through the front gates, then you can set up anywhere in the park, in theory, to get on this ride. But we didn't have a fast pass for Smuggler's Run because they opened up fast passes at a random date in the middle of February that they didn't broadcast. And so those fast passes filled up in like 2 seconds. We never knew. So we're like, well, if we want to ride Smuggler's Run, we're going to have to get in line for that early in the day so that we don't have a 2-hour wait. So there was a twofold...
Because standing in line for 2 hours with your wife is one thing, but with your wife and 3 very little kids, that's a totally different experience.
Yeah. It's difficult. And there's certain rides where it's made better, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but like Smuggler's Run is... If you're there when the park opens and you head straight for the Millennium Falcon ride, that line is going to move. Constant. It's just going to be moving, and you're just, before you know it, in 40 minutes or whenever, you're going to be at the front of the line and ready to go. So that was the bright side of it. The downside was that we didn't get on Rise of the Resistance. But imagine this. You have this pressure of trying to get on the only 2 rides in the park.
Well, and yeah.
And then that's your first experience, because then they start letting people in while this thing's going on with the app.
And for the listeners, here's the rundown of how this goes. You get into the park, and it's like when the park opens, whatever, it's like 8 o'clock or whatever it is. It's like they announce, we're open. Get your boarding passes for Rise of the Resistance. So you go in the app and you try to get in a boarding group, and it's a virtual queue. It's basically a lottery system, but you have everybody sucking up the bandwidth of everything. So it's like my cousin went, and he was like, here's steps to you need to follow. You read all those as well. But anyway, so you get at this boarding group, and so that day that you were there, because you guys were we saw tweets about it. It's like, and then somebody said, "Oh, McClunky, this is what's going on." That day was the day that there was a bug in the system that was allowing people because yes, you're supposed to be, and this is the way it's been working since it's been open, is that you can only reserve boarding groups if you are in the park and checked in. And everything, and all your members are there. But that day there was a bug that was allowing people to, make boarding group reservations from Seattle or Wyoming or wherever. And it's like people are just, because a lot of people actually are, I've read up on this, people are like practicing for their time when they go to Rise of the Resistance. So it's like when the park opens, they're opening the app and they're trying to get on a boarding group just to get into that muscle memory of what you need to do. And that day it was like, oh, wow, I'm on a boarding group. Yay. Let's 10 people. Okay. And it was screwing all of you, you know?
Yeah. It was terrible. I mean, like this was playing out in like this disaster of a scenario for us. And we're like, oh no, it's not happening, is it? And,
so, and when with something like that, I mean, working, I'm a technical writer working in technology. I understand bugs, but I also understand that it didn't sound, and we don't have to get into this, but Disney could have done more for those people in the park to say, hey, you know what, we're going to keep this ride open, for however long to make sure that we accommodate, people who are here. I mean, when you tap into that thing, God, they know exactly where you are, so they could tell if the Gladows were, checked into the park or versus the Swobodas, I mean, so there's things they could have done. It sounded like that wasn't handled well. Like I said, we don't have to get into that. I mean, but
all it reminds me of is, and I don't know, a few years back when I was in Washington, D.C., when the National Museum of African American History and Culture opened up, and the demand was so high that the only way you could get in was you had to go on their website and get a reservation. It's free, but you have to get on the website at 5 o'clock in the morning when their system goes live. And I tried doing it one day. I tell you, I logged on at 5 o'clock. By 5:08, every pass for that day was gone. And the problem is, what you ideally would hope for is that Disney would have designed something for, okay, we got a group, we're expecting 10, we only get 3. Okay, it's 5 minutes ago, next 7 in the line, come on up, or whatever, do something so that you can acknowledge it. But that's just it. The whole idea is the app's supposed to make it better, easier, faster, and...
Well, and Star Wars Celebration did something similar this year where the big panels, I mean, they didn't want people standing in line overnight.
Yeah.
So there was, at a certain point, there was like, it was a lottery system. You put your name into, the lottery system, and then like, I didn't get into the episode 9 panel. I did get into, a couple other panels, so, and I understand it's like, it is like if it had worked for you, it is a pretty good idea, because like Brittany and I are thinking about, we're just talking tonight. I mean, there are certain rides that I will stand in line for 2 hours for. There are some rides that I will not. Now, if I can get into a virtual queue and say, hey, come back at 4:30 and you get in line for this ride so you can go about your business and do other things, that's a good idea.
It is.
But the technology can't fail. And, so that was...
The thing about, the one thing I'll say in their defense is that I'd heard that there were... they can accommodate something like 10,000 people a day on this ride, and there were like over 35,000 people in the park at 8 a.m. And so it's like your odds already are low, regardless of that glitch happening.
That's nuts.
So.
But it also goes to the point that you brought up earlier, the fact that there's only 2 rides at Galaxy's Edge. Well, let's put it this way. There's a number of experiences in Galaxy's Edge. Only 2 of them are included in the price of your ticket for entering. Everything else you must part with extra money. Whether it's you go into buy a drink or buy a souvenir or buy one of the bigger experiences, it's going to cost you more. Rise of the Resistance and Smuggler's Run are the only 2 that come with you bought your ticket to Disney World that day, you went to Hollywood Studios, it's supposed to be included. And so it puts a lot of greater pressure on you to experience at least those 2.
And the last thing I'll say, and then we'll quit derailing your
oh, this is what it's all about. We're having a discussion here.
But there are people who are saying, come on, if I want to stand in line for 4 hours for this line, you should at least have one line where those people can stand in line. And yeah, I can see that argument, because there are some people who are like, I've trained my kids for 9 months to be able to stand in line for 4 hours. We're ready. I've packed my bag full of, juice boxes and snacks. We're good to go. This is the only thing we want to do. And you're telling me that I can understand that, So I think there's got to be a happy middle ground there somewhere. I like the idea of the virtual queue, as long as it works.
Right. Particularly when it comes to people who have the season passes, who are maybe local or nearby enough to drive. If you're one of those people who goes a dozen times to Disneyland or Disney World, you may not need to do the teacups every time, or you might. But it's that idea of, if you want to say, okay, I only want to come in and do Smuggler's Run and Rise of Resistance, and if I don't get on another ride, I'm fine. Giving you the chance to do that.
So anyway, okay.
Well, and I'll even dovetail off that a little bit and just say that, speaking to something that you said earlier, which is like, oh, well, maybe some of the demand has died down. That wasn't my experience at all. And it's still the hot new thing.
Yeah.
And that's problematic for Star Wars fans, because all these people who don't give one flippin' McClunky care in the world about Star Wars are like, it's the hot ride. It's the hot land to go to. I have to do it. I heard probably a half dozen conversations along those lines when I'm like exiting the park and I'm hearing, oh yeah, I don't even like Star Wars, but you know, we had to come here and the Rise of the Resistance ride was great. And I'm like,
you totally sounded like a South Park character
you
there.
Mother McClunky. I came here specifically to ride this. This part of the, honestly, this is part of the reason we booked the trip when we did. We were waiting for the Star Wars land to open up. And we're like, cool, this is now a thing. Can we save up our money? And then it was all about doing timing and everything else with the kids. As every Louisiana resident knows, Mardi Gras week is a good week to go for us because
you run into your friends and neighbors.
Yeah, everybody's kids are out of school. Mm-hmm. So the week of Mardi Gras, if you're not from here, you go to Disney World and you're like, why is everybody here from Louisiana? Well, there you go.
They're all from New Orleans.
Yeah, because like when my brother, my sister-in-law, my nephew went last November, they went Thanksgiving week. My sister-in-law's a teacher. She's off that week for Thanksgiving, and my nephew's out of school, so I was like, that's their week. Unfortunately for them, Rise of the Resistance didn't open till a week or so after they were going to visit.
Yeah.
So they only got to do Smuggler's Run. They're like, would have loved to have been there for Rise of the Resistance. The timing didn't work.
Yep.
So let's back up. You're back in that tunnel, and you go into Batu, and
it's not as magical, at least for us, as it could have been because we're under stress and pressure to try to get on these rides. Mm-hmm. And so I guess what I would say going into it is if you can get a fast pass for Smuggler's Run, that will take some of that edge right off. You try to set that up in advance. I don't know if Rise of the Resistance at that point will have fast passes or not, but
see, I think for us, because when we get there that morning that we're going to Galaxy's Edge, I've got the Savvy's workshop at 9:30.
Okay.
And then we've got Olga's Cantina like at 11, and I've got the droid thing as well. So those are. And actually, I've been watching the lines for Smuggler's Run have not been all that horrendous, kind of checking day to day. And again, I don't have, my wife and I can decide if we want to stand in line or, we either can or we can't, but
it got down under an hour and a half that afternoon. And there was some rain. I think that thinned it out a little bit too. But if you can get Smuggler's Run booked prior to going, I think that would take a lot of the edge off.
Yeah.
Because then you're not like, I have to like immediately follow this herd of people. Because when they open the front gate, they assume everybody's going to Smuggler's Run. And they just kind of herd everybody together towards that ride. And if you're not going to Smuggler's Run, you can just be like, no, thank you. I'm just going to kind of wander in at my own leisure and take it all in, which I think would be a better experience.
Mm-hmm. So you guys hustled then to Smuggler's Run.
Yep.
And how long did you wait in line?
Yeah, I was under an hour.
Okay.
Yep.
So
how was the experience while you guys were standing in line and queuing up to get in?
That was great. Everybody was cool. There weren't people like trying to cut really or anything.
So, but I want to back up though. When you saw the Millennium Falcon, a full size Millennium Falcon in real life, I mean, I know you're under pressure to get on this ride stuff, but all
right, so I saw the giant TIE interceptor
thing,
transport shuttle thing that they have there first.
See, that means nothing to me.
Well, I saw it and I'm like, well, that's impressive, because it's huge. You saw a few structures and buildings and things prior to seeing the Falcon. Mm-hmm. So you kind of ease into it. But yeah, when you first see the Falcon, it's like, it's the Falcon.
They said they've actually. They said
there it is.
They've actually, like when you're coming in that main entrance, they've angled it so it's like the exact same angle that you see in Episode 4.
Oh, when Docking Bay 94.
Yeah, so it's like that same, shot. Yeah.
They built it beautifully, and when you're winding in the line to get into the ride. It winds around the ship, so you get to see it from basically every angle and try to take pictures from every angle. And so it's and there's some mini games that you can play on the Disney Play app, I think.
See, and that's the other thing Britt and I would talk about. It's like that's a queue I would not mind spending time in because there's so much stuff to see.
So right.
It's not like Space Mountain, where if you're stuck in Space Mountain for 2 hours, you're in a hallway for 2 hours. I mean, they've made it better with some interactive games stuff like, but when you're like, oh, when you see, well, you can always look over your shoulder and see the Millennium Falcon. It's just, like, would be comfort, It's
kind of like there's a lot of rides like that there that are immersive in that way. Like Pirates is the same way. The wait isn't so bad because you're like
there's cool
looking
stuff
around.
Yeah.
Look at that pirate ship over there. So it's very similar to that. But like for us, it was incumbent that we get on that ride, or at least for me. I'm like, I am riding that because we missed the Rise of the Resistance ride. We're going straight to Smuggler's Run. We're getting on that ride. I'm making sure of it. And so we were motivated. But I mean,
the chess room, cool.
All right, so if there's a disappointing aspect to getting on the ride, it's that you don't really walk up into the Falcon,
right?
Because you can't. I mean,
right.
they could have probably set it up in such a way that
you go up a ramp,
some kind of ramp, at some point, but there's no ramp,
right?
So you're just suddenly in the Falcon, and so like that part of it's a little disappointing for me, but like it's recreated. I mean, you're there. We took a picture at the chess table. The hallway, that curves around, and the cockpit is immaculate. It's just.
Do people play nice in the chess room? I mean, like, do you have to say, "Get out, it's my turn now, Skippy," or
I don't think it's functional, to be honest. I didn't see any holograms, but
no, I mean, but everybody wants their picture.
Everybody wants their picture.
That's
what
I'm saying. Is like, do you have? Do people kind of play nice and like get out of the way and let people take their pictures, or do you?
Well,
have to...
when you're in that part of quote unquote the Falcon, there's multiple boarding groups in there, and you're all just kind of waiting for your turn.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So it's like you got about 5 minutes in there to try to quick take pictures and see everything and do what you want to do. And I didn't think that was a problem. I think most people were able to kind of get in what they wanted to.
So then you go into the cockpit.
Yep.
And it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. It's crazy. I was just cackling like, I don't know what, but I have this video. Maybe I'll pull it up of me just cackling like a madman because I was enjoying myself so much, and we just kept crashing into things, and because we had my 4-year-old pilot in the ship.
You won't let her drive the car, you let her fly the Falcon.
So, sorry, I'm gonna have to back up a little bit further. I've heard that the animatronics for Hondo is amazing.
Yep, they're great. Yep. They're up the top of the line, the best, some of the best in the park. I was impressed with the stuff on Star Tours. They really upped that too. The Frozen ride has really good animatronics, but those are the only ones that had spring to mind that are comparable.
Cool.
Yeah, because I was just thinking that's a smart way of making the time fly by, because if you're standing in line surrounded by the Falcon or inside the Falcon and everything looks cool and you want to touch and sit and take a million photographs, you're not looking at your watch.
Yeah.
You're not looking like, okay, when is my turn to go next? But then once you get into a cockpit, I believe I'm correct in saying it's pairs of twos, by which I mean it's cockpit, it's 6 people, 2 people pilot, 1 up and down, 1 left, right, 2 gunners, 1 left and right, and then 2 engineers who are supposed to just be pushing a button whenever something breaks.
Yep.
And
which, you know what? Okay, so I'm gonna say this and this is me putting my expectations at the door, because I know there's a fairly good chance that I'm going to be an engineer on this ride, but it's like, still stop and think, You're in the flipping Millennium Falcon cockpit, you know, just enjoy the dang ride, you know, and push your button when you get a push button. I'm sorry you don't get to pull the lever to go to hyperspace. Yeah, it'd be kind of cool, but I mean, you were saying you were an engineer and you were cackling the whole time. I think there's a lot of people who are like, oh, I got the engineer, like they're Charlie Brown going, I got a rock, you know. It's like, that's kind of like the same thing. Well, then get off the ride, and let me get on a second time.
The one thing I was going to say is, I'm kind of the only thing I'm surprised by the rides that they don't have the gunner positions up at the top and the bottom, you know, because that would have been a good way to fit 2 more people into the ride. And imagine, like, okay, we don't put you inside the cockpit, but we put you inside the seat, and you get to start shooting at TIE fighters.
There you go. Center. You need to be an Imagineer there, Fredo.
I agree. That would have been sweet.
Yeah, you'd be like, just imagine you up top, Nate at the bottom. Next thing you know, you're just blasting away at that TIE fighters.
I'm sure it has everything to do with having to crawl up a ladder.
Yeah. People falling. People falling. That's always going to be an issue.
The mouse doesn't like getting sued.
No, I know. But what I was going to say is, it's even whatever position you're at, because what's interesting is sometimes if you're in a big enough group, you can select what role you end up in. But if you're by yourself or you're just a couple of people, you may not. And I believe it's by cards, right, Dave? That, you know,
they just hand these cards out to your group. And you're all the same color, but they just, like, here are the cards for your group. And they just give them to you one by one. And my oldest daughter, threw a fit because she wanted to be a gunner. And she was originally going to be a pilot. So it was going to be my 2 daughters piloting the ship, crashing us into everything. You and Kate going,
this is the way driving is going to come. Yeah.
And so she just melted down, and it was like, Kate was like, fine, I'll switch with you. And I'm like, I'll switch with you. Did not say that.
Let me take the bullet on this one here.
Yeah, I totally did, because I was like, I'm getting to blow $200 on a lightsaber later. But it was, it was a lot of fun. No matter where you're sitting in that cockpit, it's fun.
I will just add the line that my brother did, because it was him piloting along with his wife. He said, I was the guy flying, taking us up and down, and his wife was the one crashing us into everything. So if you got a good partnership, you could be good.
The thing I heard in the last about week or so news is that there is a Chewbacca hack. Have you heard about this?
It's confirmed.
Yeah. So I watched the video of it. It's like everybody has to, like, the pilots have to put their maneuver, whatever, their joysticks in a certain thing, and the gunners have to push a certain button, and the engineers have to push a certain button, and then instead of Hondo talking to you, telling you what to do, you just have Chewbacca going the whole time. And so you don't know what you're supposed to be doing, but
you don't care.
These people were just laughing the entire time. They said it was the best experience. So it's a Chewbacca hack. It's if you go to Fantha Tracks, that's fanthatracks.com. That's one of the sites I go to. They've got a video of a group of people who did the Chewbacca hack.
I've seen people recommend not doing that on your first ride.
Well, right, because you have no idea what you're supposed to do.
And I would agree with that, because, like, Hondo is telling us what to do. I'm like, oh yeah, because he'll remind you if you're, like, asleep at the wheel, so to speak. Oh yeah, I got a flashing button over here on my left. I need to push the flashing button, and it's like, okay, thanks for that, Hondo. But Chewie would just be like, you know, so.
So did the kids dig the Falcon then?
Yeah, they loved it. Yeah. And again, though, I kind of compare it to Star Tours in that it's a very similar experience where you feel like you're there, and you feel like you're moving around. You feel like you're moving around, and you're not. But the visuals are very similar, and our kids loved both experiences probably fairly equally. The Falcon, though, it's a little more interactive because you're actually pushing buttons and pulling levers and stuff.
Sure.
So, and plus, it's the Falcon, right? I mean, for like us, the three of us sitting around this table, there's something a little extra special about that. So,
but like I said, particularly when you grab that lever and you go to hyperspace.
So then
I'm going to pull up this video just so you can hear me cackling for a second.
No. I think that's, while Dave pulls that up, I was just thinking, And that's one of the interesting things that I was just thinking, comparing it to Star Tours, because I've been to Star Tours, and I enjoyed it, but I found it to be very passive because you're a passenger.
Right.
I imagine it's a lot more. It's a bit different when you're actually
it's
behind the wheel.
It's like taking Mission Space combined with Star Tours. Yeah, because Mission Space, you just have to push a button, but you each have a role to do. Yeah.
So it puts you in a position where you're not just focusing on the ride, you're focusing on your mission. And I believe you actually get scored on how well you did, how well you piloted, how much damage you did to the Falcon, etc. So there's a score at the end of the ride.
There is, and it's the money.
And they said
the
it
credits,
also.
And Hondo subtracts the damage that you do to the Falcon out of your cut.
And this is supposed to follow you through the parks. Is that? I mean, there's supposed to be a way that, like, the
we didn't go down that
were,
road at all. We just didn't have the time for it. But yeah, you can track that stuff, and you can you get a score over time too. You can continually ride this thing and improve your ranking, so to speak, which is kind of cool. But
I don't know if you want to know what Harper's ranking was after crashing y'all.
Oh, it probably wasn't that great. You can hear that.
Yeah, that's pure joy.
You can't help laughing when your daughter is just crashing the ship repeatedly.
See, at that moment, all the troubles of the day just went away.
Yeah, for me anyway.
You're just in the moment enjoying it.
So then, so you get off the Falcon. Then what came next?
At that point, we were killing time. We kind of explored the rest of the park. We were trying to rally a little bit at that point. I had my lightsaber Savvy's workshop appointment at, I think, 10 or 11. So we had like a couple of hours there, and not a lot of rides to ride at Galaxy's Edge. So we ended up exploring some of the rest of the park.
Oh, okay.
There was a Frozen sing-along thing that we did, and there's like a little Incredibles area where you can meet the Incredibles characters, and so we did that stuff. But then, at one point, it came close to time to do Savvy's, so we divided up at that point, and I got my son Nate, and we went over to Savvy's and we did that, and so that was the next experience that we did.
So you told us that you hadn't chosen which of the lightsabers you were going to do. You were going to wait till day off.
Yeah.
So what kind of prompted you to go with the one you picked?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there were two. So for anybody who hasn't done it or doesn't know much about it, it's like the Savvy's workshop experiences. You, again, this is one of those things that costs extra, so you need to know that going in. It's like $200, so it's not cheap. But when you go in, it's a lightsaber building experience. But it's more of even a kind of a ceremony in the way that they build it up with.
It's like building a lightsaber and getting your Eagle Scout type of thing.
Yeah. It's really like that a lot. And so they give you the different.
No offense to any Eagle Scouts out there. I didn't mean to demean your wonderful achievement, but
Eagle Scouts, you might be Jedi Knights. You just don't know it yet.
Well, you could be both, right?
Exactly.
So there are all these. You get different choices and stuff that you can do. So let me go through this. But let's see, my battery's almost dead. But I'll just list through these right quick. Peace and justice, power and control, elemental nature, protection and defense, and those are the different hilt designs essentially that you can pick from, and you get to pick different pieces and assemble them in a particular way. You basically have two choices at every level, and the saber's composed of 4 pieces.
I like how he's
essentially.
looking into his mind's eye right now, and he's got this lightsaber right behind him.
No, but he's remembering, okay, how many pieces go? You got the chassis, you got the kyber crystal, you got 1, 2.
What I'm
3.
saying is that he's sitting
It's
there
right
trying
there.
to remember. He could just pick the thing up and look at it. But anyway,
Well, you have 7 pieces actually.
Yeah, with the blade, right?
Yeah, you got the blade, you got the freaking battery pack, you got the kyber crystal. So here, what is this? So I brought the saber with me.
Because you kind of have to. I mean, it's only fair.
And so, having to decide which design, my son originally gravitated towards the Sith.
The power and control.
were you surprised?
No. But I wanted us to do it together, actually. I didn't want to just drag him along for the ride. I wanted him to be a part of the experience. He's a little young still to just trust him with a $200 souvenir, but I wanted him to be a part of the building of it at minimum. So we settled on Peace and Justice,
which is the Jedi one.
and it looks like a more classic Luke from Return of the Jedi kind of Anakin Skywalker semi sort of look. So it's a good look. It was his second choice. It was my first choice, so that's what we went with. But we both individually came upon the color green. He wanted to do green because all the kid sabers that we have at our house, we didn't have a green one. I wanted to do green because since I was 7 years old, I wanted a green lightsaber. And I never had a green lightsaber my whole life. And so that was like extra meaningful that we both independently came to green that way. I'll try not to get too choked up over that. But so there's this experience where you get to build it.
You do know why there is a green lightsaber in
I do
Star
know,
Wars lore,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's because they're filming in Arizona and they realized that a blue lightsaber against a blue sky wasn't going to work.
Right.
So that's how decisions are made, kids. Anyway.
But still, as a kid, you don't know that.
No.
Or you see it's a green lightsaber, which also worked as a good way of telling you this is a different lightsaber than the one he lost.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I had a red lightsaber.
Way to retcon that there, Fredo. Good job.
You know, look, I'm thinking like George Lucas here.
I had a red lightsaber as a kid, but, and I don't want to be ungrateful for that, but there was something magical about the green for me. Because I never had it. I've never seen one, really. I think I saw them in Walmart. And we're talking about those wiffle bat sabers from when we were kids,
Oh, yeah.
But I always wanted one, so.
And the whole experience, I mean, from the moment now, because the interesting thing is, while you're outside picking, you do have the First Order stormtroopers walking around. So did you get to experience that where they may kind of shut down and make it look like it's not not what it is?
Because it's kind of it's kind of a black market type of deal.
Right.
Yeah, we
an underground thing.
I didn't experience it personally, but I saw it play out, and yeah, it's very like true to the script basically because they do that all day to everybody that they encounter, and their whole spiel is like, well, you better be like an antique collector. And you're not planning to use that, are you? Like that kind of thing. And it's fun. So we didn't get arrested or anything.
So the whole experience kind of goes from start to finish. Then it's about 20 minutes, give or take?
Yeah, probably under a half hour.
Okay.
They give you enough time though to kind of. You don't have to go in knowing exactly what you're.
Pick your
do.
pieces now! Hurry! Come on!
Yeah.
Come on, kid! Let's go! We're closing.
They give you time to screw the pieces together and to decide if you like the way that it looks and that's thing. But you do have to pick a theme before you go in.
Yeah.
And then at one point during the ceremony, they ask you to close your eyes and, just like take in the Force or whatever. And then
sounded dirty.
And in your mind's eye, basically envision which kyber crystal you want. But we'd already decided that we were going to do green. But I did ask Nate at that point too. I was like, "Are we still doing green, buddy?" And he's like, "Yeah, we're doing green." So, And this whole experience. I do want to point out they do have like the legacy sabers for sale there as well. So if somebody wants a lightsaber that looks like Luke's Skywalker's or Anakin's or whatever, you can buy that as well there.
You don't get the experience.
You don't.
They're cheaper than, but you just don't get.
They're a little bit cheaper,
Not
but
that
they
much.
don't come with the blade either.
Yeah, you have to pay for the blade.
Yeah.
separately.
So it's like once you factor in that extra cost for that, and it's like for me personally, it was so much more meaningful to just build this thing that's special. I always remember that I built this with my son, and we built this thing together, and they activate it for you at the very end. Once you've screwed all the pieces together and you put your kyber crystal in, you do everything. They ask you to back up away from it, but then they basically attach the blade in kind of a subtle way that you don't really see them attaching the blade, but they're attaching the blade. And then everything all at once, everybody activates their saber and lifts it up. And then Yoda does kind of a voiceover for you.
And the music swells.
Yes.
And at that moment.
And everybody cries and
Goosebumps.
gasps and it's I cannot express like how cool it was to experience that for people of our generation. Like that was just
So Disney hit that one out of the park then.
I agree. Yes. Yeah, they did. And yeah, I can't say enough about it. I know that you will get asked about your saber because you have to carry it around with you the rest of the day. You can store it. They have an option for that. But most
Britt and I are staying on the at a resort in the park, so we'll probably just have it sent to my room. I'm not gonna.
Because is there any problems with carrying it onto rides?
Nope.
Okay, see, because that'd be my one concern is say if you're not staying at a resort or within the park, that you now have to carry this rather expensive souvenir that you're emotionally attached to. But hey, I also want to get on Splash Mountain. I also want to get Tower of Terror or whatever.
And I think if people are riding those kinds of rides, like coaster rides, afterwards, they're gonna
store them.
Be more difficult.
Yeah.
They'll find it more difficult trying to carry that thing around. But
and by the way, so you get the saber. It comes with a blade, and it also comes with a carrying bag.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something I didn't realize. My brother-in-law brought his when we were back for Christmas because they had just gone a couple months prior. I didn't realize you got this nice little padded bag for it. So
now you can buy a different one if you want. I know I've seen.
Well, of course you can.
Of course, Disney they'll sell you a newer version, but they have a different color gray one if you want to buy it. But it's like for the fact of what you want it to do and for what it does, I think this one does fine.
Yeah, it's not the like highest quality bag, but it's got like a pool noodle in there.
Yep.
The the styrofoam to protect the thing. The blades are pretty high quality.
They're heavy. That's one thing I realized.
Yeah, the hilt is very heavy. The blade itself is reasonably strong.
So I just got my Vader one off of my wall. Notice the weight difference. I mean, because the one from Galaxy's Edge is a lot heavier.
Is it the same size in terms of hilt size?
Don't do that. It's a good thing that this is not a video podcast.
But
yeah.
I think
I see your Schwartz is as big as mine.
That's one of my favorite lines ever. So let's see how well you handle it.
Yeah, I got this saber from my students actually one year. So the Vader. Hey, we can have a fight.
No, wait, hold on. Okay, that's what I was interested in.
Right on. Okay.
There's a good timing and reaction time for the clashing.
Yeah,
because that's one of the things I was like. Because obviously, the moment you and Nate come out, the one thing you want to do is swing it around. Now, I'm sure they tell you, please don't do that too much. But at the same time, you want to know that when you're swinging, the sound that... Was
there an army of LARPer nerds like just running around just like having a big LARPing contest?
You know what they do? I know that they have like tweet ups now, lightsaber tweet ups where everyone who's gotten a saber, they get together.
We can start that here. It'll be you and I.
Yeah. It's like sundown. I don't know what time of day this happens, or if it happens every day. But
backyard.
Everybody essentially who built a saber over the course of the day gets together at the end of the day after the sun has gone down, and they do some kind of a ceremony where they.
I'm sorry.
Sabers.
So it's bright suns is good morning. And what's the good evening?
Something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, because I always figure, because what's interesting is every person. I mean, there's only. I mean, I know I've heard them say they're going to add a few more types going forward at some point. But right now, it's the 4 types that you mentioned. Each one has 2 different variants.
And you can now buy the extra parts.
Oh, yeah. You're allowed to buy. I think for a while, they were allowing you to buy all the other parts for like $20 each. I think they kind of limited to, okay, you can only buy so many of the type that you initially picked.
Right.
So you can't buy, say, the Rancor Tooth hilt from the Elemental Nature one to switch out your cap.
Right.
But what I was going to say is, even though it's only 8 types in total, there's a lot of meaning for people when they pick which type they pick and which styles they pick. They get very attached to the choices that they made.
Yeah. I'm very attached to it already. And there's
Phrasing.
Phrasing. Always phrasing. You can pull the kyber crystal out and replace it, which is cool. During the ceremony itself, they only give you 4 choices of color, but you can get a different color later on.
I think they do ask people if they go, say, to Doc Ondar, so you can buy the other types. They ask them not to use them during the ceremony because they want to avoid somebody going like, well, I wanted a white one or a
yellow
one, or the rare black, which isn't black. It's
I get that. And so you need to respect that. I'd say if you go, don't stash a kyber in your pocket to try to swap it in during the ceremony because you're gonna piss the people working there off. But it's no big deal to sub it in later. That's why they're designed the way they are.
I mean, Disney wants your money. They, if you want to go back and buy a truckload of kyber crystals at $15 a pop, they'll be more than glad to sell them to you.
But you asked if it's worth it, and that's the thing. Like, you get asked when you carry it around the park, people will want to stop you. They may want to see it, but they mostly just want, was it worth it? Was it worth it? Because they're thinking about doing it.
Because it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
To me, it's an experience that you don't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like you can spend $200 to go to a concert that lasts
2 hours.
2 hours, and you're never going to hear it again.
Yeah.
But that experience of saying, "Man, I saw this group live," lives with you forever. And I mean, so it's it's not like they take your $200, kick you in the and tell you to go away. I mean, you get to go home with something that is going to be with you forever. There's going to be a lot of McClunkies in this episode.
That's cool.
That's all right.
But what I was going to say is, because when you look at from the standpoint of buying the legacy lightsabers, like they were saying, the difference in price.
Which I might be saving my money for, but anyway.
But the point being, there's not that much difference in price from some of them. Like, actually, I want to say Asajj Ventress is one, and it's $200, and that's you're getting 2. And
right, and
Ahsoka's you're getting 2. It's also $200. So right there, same price, but you're not getting the experience. You're getting 2 really nice looking blades.
And these things don't they don't operate the same way if you don't have the blade in.
Yeah, if you take it out.
Like if you take the blade out, it doesn't do anything.
It misfires.
It misfires. Yeah.
Yeah. Which, I mean, it's kind of funny in and of itself. Yeah.
Okay, I'm holding just the hilt right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can totally tell the weight. I mean,
it's heavy. Yeah.
Yeah, this is, again, I'm glad that you're carrying it around, and that when Nate wants to play with it, you're there, because you can do some damage
if he whacks one of his sisters over the head with that. Yeah,
that's hospital visit.
Yeah.
The saber quality overall, I'm really happy with. But I know there are enthusiasts that will buy the deluxe brand off the internet that will run $300 or whatever, and they're like, that's so much better and it's so much more authentic, and you don't see the seams and this and that and the other. And then there are other people that do the combat, sparring. And they're like, well, these blades won't hold up to that. And I'm like, well, yeah, no, they won't.
Well,
That's
you
not
know
what they're for.
you didn't all of a sudden start studying Kenpo, did you, to become a lightsaber master at 3:00 in the morning?
But it'll hold up to me and my son,
Yeah.
swinging them at each other without, trying to break them in two. So, I'm really happy with it.
Right on. I can't wait. So did you go to Doc Ondor's?
That was one of the ones we missed. I mean, and I think that it's like,
Because apparently the Ark of the Covenant is in there.
It is in there.
everything's in there. And we didn't even get in there, but everything else is in there. And at some point, I'm going to get more Kybers, I think, just for novelty's sake.
You're going to get the holocrons with it to get it switch it on?
Well, you got to get a holocron, right? It used to make you buy the holocron, I think, with the...
Well,
Kyber.
when the initial came out, you could buy, just Kyber crystals, but then I think there was such a run on them that they started limiting to, okay, you can only get one with a Kyber crystal. I mean, with a holocron, whether Jedi said. But yeah, that'd be my one worry, is that I go into Doc Ondor's and be like, I need this, I need this, I need this, I need this. All of a sudden, I'm coming out with something worth twice as much as
there are a lot.
Savvy's.
There are a lot of shopping stalls too that aren't Doc Ondor's.
Yeah.
That where you can. There's like
The Toydarian toy makers, yeah.
Yeah, and then there's places where you can.
Which I saw today. You can buy chance cubes.
Mm-hmm. They got them back in stock.
That Watto,
Yeah, they had them. They had them released when the part came out, but I think again, those became kind of like, oh, cool! It's relatively cheap and it's an awesome souvenir, and they just ran out.
I wonder if they're weighted.
Gonna have to try them.
But there's so many different places that you can just kind of. It's like a bazaar. The certain section of the place is like just little mini shops.
It almost seems to me to look like a little bit like Animal Kingdom with Star Wars, painted on top of it. Just kind of that whole Asia area. But anyway,
did you get to try any of the food?
Yeah.
Okay. What?
Yeah. So we made a reservation. Again, it's we made a reservation at Oga's, and it's recommended that you do that because they can't guarantee everybody that wants to go in there can get in there. Our experience there was very mixed because our kids were tired, and
you guys needed a drink.
Yeah.
An actual drink.
Making a reservation does not guarantee you a table or seating.
Right. You might
with 3 tired kids.
You might be standing in a corner.
Right.
It's just an occupancy thing. And so you can make a reservation and you get in, and
you might be back in college where
you're just standing around and
holding a drink.
Yeah. Elbow to elbow with random people you don't know, listening to music. Yeah.
Boots and pants and boots and pants and boots.
And it wasn't like particularly rowdy in there or anything. It wasn't like it was kid inappropriate, but if you do have kids with you, you need to bear that in mind.
There's going to be some drunk people in there.
There's going to be drunk people, and there's not going to be room for them necessarily to spread out or sit down,
chill out,
or run around.
Or run around. Yeah, I mean, it was really awkward. They were acting out. We bought them non-alcoholic drinks and a snack, and they were just not into it. So we had to cut that really short. So bear that in mind if you have kids.
What did you have?
I had what was the thing called? The smuggler's shot or whatever. It was, God, what was it called? I have to look it up. No, I have to look up the drinks. But the drinks were great. I mean, they're all pretty fruity.
Right.
So if you like fruity fruity cocktails, then
you're in Florida, so it makes sense that the cocktails will be fruit juice rich. Plus, also helps. That's what they give their kids. It's just fruit juice.
Yeah. Then you got they've got like four beers that just look really kind of not that great. But you can get a flight where it's the Rancor Teeth I'm like, come on, man.
You know you're getting that.
You're going to be doing that, aren't you?
Yes.
Well, most likely. That's
No, that's not a most likely.
That's
That's
why I teach lessons on Saturday. I've been rat holing my my money. So
if I get that when I saw that, I was like, oh, that looks cool. The tiki mug with the Battle of Endor around it. That's like.
I was really wanting to get the fuzzy tauntaun until I realized it was peach, and I was like, I'm not really a peach fan.
Yeah.
So.
And then which is the one with the porg?
I don't know.
That one that's like a porg tiki mug, which are like, I mean, the drink itself is like $15, and then the mugs are another $20, $25. But
yeah, like I said, I think we're doing Olga's like about noon or something like that. So
it might be the right time because you might be at that point. You might need some fruit
like
juice.
11 or
food.
noon or something like that. Yeah, it's late morning, very early afternoon. I know. So
Jet juice. That was the thing I had. And it was a little small thing, but it was meant to be potent, I think.
Well, they weren't expecting people from New Orleans, probably.
Yeah. During Mardi Gras week.
These people, we practice day drinking, so.
But the non-alcoholic drinks were good.
Okay.
Too. So.
Did you get to try the Banta milk?
I did. Yeah. Okay. They had a milk stand. Okay. And it's on the dining plan. So people who are on the Disney dining plan.
So is it a snack then? Does it count as a snack?
It'll count as a snack.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yep.
I'm guessing the snack plan didn't include the light up bottle.
But even because you can get alcohol and non-alcoholic, is it only the non-alcoholic on the snack plan?
Well, I'm talking about the blue milk and the green milk.
Right, you can get with
alcohol.
You can get alcoholic and I don't know if you can do that at the milk stand or if you have to be at Oga's.
Oh, okay.
It may have to be at Oga's just because limitations. Because Oga's is like one of the only 2 places in the whole park that you can get an actual alcoholic drink, right?
Well, there's a craft brewery place in Hollywood Studios,
right. And I know Epcot Center, like the restaurants will have alcohol.
Yeah, it's even Magic Kingdom's now starting to get some.
Because I figure you got that many parents, they need a drink.
But anyway,
well, they're right.
So you tried the blue milk?
I did. I had to go blue milk. Yeah. And
why would you do green milk?
Yeah, I know. I just I mean. People say the green milk. Some people say the green milk tastes better, so that would probably influence some
Luke
people's
didn't
thinking.
drink green milk.
He didn't drink green milk. Yeah, I went blue milk all the way. It was good.
What's the flavor profile like?
God, everything was sweet. So every drink that you would drink there was sweet.
You needed a bottle of water afterwards.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Bring get water on after that too.
What was cool about it was that it did have kind of that milky mouthfeel. So like a little thicker than like a watery drink, It had kind of a, what is that? The umami kind of thing going on there that was similar to milk. So that was cool, but it was sweet. So definitely didn't taste anything like milk at all.
So in this whole area, the whole thing was everybody talking about. We mentioned the word earlier was immersion. That they're saying it's the most immersive experience in Disney that you're going to get, or probably in any park. Do you think that they lived up to that because on your trip you went to the other parks? Do you feel like you were lost for a few moments when you were in Galaxy's Edge? Did you actually? You?
Yeah.
You think they got the immersion part right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And does it feel like Star Wars, or does it feel like Disney did Star Wars?
No, it feels like Star Wars. I don't want to overstate it because you're going right. But for me,
well, it's already been overhyped in from the get go. That's why, like I said, that's why you're. That's always been my fear, is that I'm going to get there and it's going to be like, it's all right.
And I have to say too, like in terms of like our whole day, we didn't spend the whole day there. We kept hopping in and out of the park, but that didn't like take us out of it. We were just back, Oh, we're back, and we're good to go. So like the immersion is like complete when you're there, other than the fact that you're surrounded by, yokels from Wyoming or wherever, or Louisiana.
With all respect to the people in Wyoming.
Yeah, exactly.
And with no respect for the people from Louisiana.
Yeah, I mean, other than that, your environment is just spot on.
Because I'm trying to think. Because one of the things they do is everything's via credits, right?
Yeah,
you got to pay credits. You don't pay cash. You don't pay card. They ask you how many. They tell you how many Republic credits it is.
Yeah, yes and no.
So they kind of.
It's your choice.
All right.
Yeah, you can go in there with.
Why am I having a flashback to the? There was no silverware in medieval times, so therefore there is no silverware in medieval times.
Would you like a refill on your Pepsi?
I had Pepsi, but they didn't have silverware.
Best friends forced to do battle.
No, recent events. I remember when I went to Universal Studios and I went to Wizarding World, and that was one of the interesting things. When you go to some of the shops and some of the places, the cast actually work really hard at, selling you on the idea of the immersion. They use the verbiage, they use the language, they know, you're using your Muggle whatever. So the idea of, and it might be easier for them to do than necessarily Star Wars, which has no like for like.
Yeah, that's why I think the Bright Suns thing was like really. I mean, it's cool, but it just seems like we got to make up something because we can't say good morning. I don't know.
But as you said, it's like there's got to be a balance for them of okay, how much can we make it immersive versus okay, now we're just sounding kind of goofy.
But it's your choice.
What about the thermal detonator Coca-Cola?
I didn't do that.
You didn't get any?
You want one?
Yes, I want one.
Yeah.
They say that's the cheapest souvenir you can get, $3 a bottle.
Oh.
Now, problem is you gotta, if you're driving back, it's easier. If you're flying back,
you can now take it on the plane. From what I understand,
Okay,
they'll let you through security with it.
Because the lightsaber, that's your carry-on.
Because the thermal detonator is not actually a thing. So
I also don't want to gloss over the other food that we had, which was the Docking Bay restaurant.
Okay, yeah, whatchamacallit, Ronco's Roaster or something like that? Or?
Well, that's a different one. The Roaster's place is like a coffee joint.
Oh, all right.
And so you could go in there and get some decent coffee.
It's Docking Bay something or other.
47, I think.
You don't need a reservation for that. That's just a quick service.
Yeah, quick
thing.
service.
All right.
That's good.
And that's covered by the quick service on the dining plan too.
Actually, the Ronto Roasters is one of the dishes. It's like sausage and
in a wrap,
pork
that kind of thing.
yeah.
Well, there's a Roasters, whatever. I don't remember the name of the place, but there is a basically a coffee themed place too.
So if you need coffee, after running around trying to get to the guy,
yeah, right,
on Smuggler's Run, you're already apped up. Let's give you some caffeine. Come on now.
But the Docking Bay restaurant was good, and there's an overhang where you can look down at the kind of the main promenade area where the Falcon is parked, and where Kylo and the stormtroopers patrol, and so you can kind of just like look down and people watch and take things in from up there.
That's cool.
The food was really good there. I liked it a lot. As far as quick service at Disney goes, you really, really hit or miss.
Right. It's chicken tenders and
French fries.
and hamburgers.
Or you can get a lobster roll if you go to the right place.
Right.
So like this was on the higher end of that.
Kids
so
liked it.
Good. Yeah.
Okay, so this time they were hungry. They were right.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. And so, but I guess back to the point that I was gonna make, which is about just the whole immersion of it. Like we got off to on the wrong foot because of the Rise of the Resistance thing, but then we're like, okay, we're just gonna try to enjoy the rest of our day. And Kate got our kids into the Jedi training, and so that took all the sting from not getting on that ride, just totally washed it away. And like for me at least, and for the kids, I think, just getting to see them, fight Darth Vader, and do all that was amazing. And like, again, that takes place outside of Galaxy's Edge.
Right. It's over by Star Tours.
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But
is that also where they do the dance sequence?
Well,
they used to do
that video, yeah. Yeah.
That put us back in the right frame of mind, or at least for me it did. And so from that point forward, I'm like, all right, this is awesome. And we ended up back in Ugas, and they're like freaking out and melting down later, and it had rained. That added some atmosphere for us anyway. And it just, I don't know. Like at that point, I'm like, you know what? You guys can melt down, and I know we're gonna have to leave in, in the next 90 seconds because you're melting down. But I'm still gonna take those 90 seconds
I enjoy myself
and just bathe in this because it's incredible. And I'd say for any Star Wars fan, it's a must. It really is.
Well, and that's what Brittany and I have always talked about. I mean, I know people have their problems with Disney and this, that, and the other, but as far as theme parks are concerned, Disney, I guess I haven't seen Harry Potter World, but Disney gets theming right. They don't really do anything half McClunkied. I mean, it's like, and this just took it to another level. It's like, because when they do make queues, it's not just, a cattle line like if you're at Six Flags or something.
Right.
I mean, you're in the Seven Dwarfs, home. You're there's there's Brer Rabbit and Brer Fox. They immerse you. They give you stuff to look at, and this they just just amped it up to 11.
I agree
it seems
with
like
that. Epcot could be the thing that comes closest for me, but even with Epcot, there are moments where you're like, that's kind of a rinky-dink looking pagoda over there. That doesn't look like the real thing.
You can tell where the fine line kind of stopped. And okay,
it's like I can almost see behind there, and there's nothing back there. So there are moments of that with Epcot that aren't there with Galaxy's Edge for me anyway. I didn't see any sort of cracks in the facade.
Now it's going to be interesting because I've read somewhere that they actually had more missions planned for Smuggler's Run. Like I want to say they have planned up to 4.
I think that's coming. They're
already in mind what they're going to do to keep it not just relevant, but front of people's minds. Make people who've been there, okay, come back. You want to come back.
The fact that it's now on Fast Pass, that will help. And like I said, they get more missions and kind of mix it up a little bit. But I still think it'd be like, I'm still on the Millennium Falcon. I don't care if I'm doing the exact same thing. It's gonna be cool. So, well, cool. Any last thoughts on Galaxy's Edge? Anything we didn't hit on that you wanted to?
Bring your monies.
Yeah, bring your money. Everything costs money. And I think it's smart to go in with a budget. And like for me, I was extreme with it because I knew we couldn't devote the entire day to it, and we were only going to be there the one day. So I was like, well, let me make sure I do what I really want, and when that was the lightsaber building,
right?
And I was like, that's $200. I'm good. I'm not going to spend any other money that I don't have to beyond that. But everybody's going to be different. There's so many cool things. Like I would, if you've never been and you're thinking of going, I would begin to set a budget and start looking at the things they offer there, and try to determine what's most important.
Right.
Because there's so much you can spend. You could spend $1,000 in there easily. You really could, without even really being aware of it. So I, set a budget, but just go have fun. And geek out. You know what? That's the best part of it, is that like you don't get judged either. You're just there in your environment and you're having a great time, and you don't have to apologize for it.
Which is also it's very interesting you say that, because that's kind of what we talked about with Mardi Gras. What people don't understand about Mardi Gras is like, again, people dress up and it's like, whatever, you do you, have fun, don't be a McClunky, well, cool. Well, our next episode, I think we'll be talking about the new episodes of the Clone Wars. Dave, you haven't watched any of the Clone Wars. Fredo and I have. Initial thoughts?
It feels very much like a continuation of the show, which is good. Animation's slightly better, just slightly bit better.
You can tell it's like a mix of Clone Wars and Rebels.
Like it's not quite as fluid as Rebels. Always look more rounded to me, like it's some more
Thing I will say is that I don't like Anakin's nose. That is just one of those things. Like the first episode, I'm like, what's up with his nose? And I it's like when somebody has a booger hanging from their nose, you can't help but just stare at it the whole time. It's like, dude's got a booger hanging from, but Anakin's nose it's shaped weird. I don't know what my deal is with it, but
thanks for that. So now that's the only thing I'm going to watch.
That's it.
Watch it.
But
Rex looks the same, which is good.
The camera work, we don't want to give away anything, but the camera work is awesome. Just these long shots that they're doing, I just think is really cool.
I love the designs of the Bad Batch.
So
I love how they've taken one single design, the Jango Fett look from the movie, and they find a way to differentiate it across all these characters so that every one of them feels unique.
And I was surprised that they're just doing one episode a week.
Yeah,
it's smart. Instead of dropping the whole,
series,
they could have dropped the whole arc, and it would have been 60 minutes of your day, but. And I think it's genius. It gives you something to look forward to, like tomorrow, a new episode of the Clone Wars. So,
and it doesn't take long for you to catch up.
And we'll also talk about other news that people may have missed, the Project Luminous stuff, and I've already been talking about probably going to have to do a combination of buying books and audiobooks and everything
Comic
else,
books.
and
And then,
but
some of the leaks coming out.
Well, they're talking about another. There is apparently going to be a Star Wars movie coming in 2023.
22. Christmas 2022.
But we don't know what it is, who's doing it.
Nothing.
But there's a movie, so this is just very interesting stuff going on right now. And of course,
Project Maverick.
It'll also be interesting to know. There's a new Disney CEO. What does that mean for Star Wars? Who knows? So it's an interesting time for Star Wars fans. But yeah, so we'll talk more about that stuff next week. Any final thoughts from anybody?
No, you just need sleep.
Yeah. So
I'm as big as a Star Wars fan as I've ever been after going to Galaxy's Edge.
Oh, that's interesting.
It feels enhanced for me right now. I'm in it. I am immersed. So, yeah.
One question: did you find that your kids came back liking Star Wars more?
Oh, they were already into it. So,
right.
Nate, maybe a little more
for the experience.
Yeah.
Because that was interesting watching the photos of all three of them doing the little videos of them doing the lightsaber battle with Darth Vader. They all approach it. They're all excited. You can tell their little personalities kind of coming out in that moment and embracing the situation.
Yeah, no, they had a blast.
Cool.
We all did.
That's good.
Right on. Well, thanks for listening. And like I said, you can hear us, by the way, on iTunes or Apple Podcasts. Sorry, iTunes just dated me. Apple Podcasts and on Google Play and Podbean, and follow us on Twitter and Facebook. And until then, we will say who dat?
Who dat?
Who dat?
And everybody have a good week.
McConkey.